Good evening, welcome to Red Army TV. We're not quite at the season end show. We've still got a couple of loose ends to tie up before we review the season as a whole. But joining me tonight, just to look over the last week or so of what's been going on, we are joined by Paul Burke and Marc Yafano. Both regulars to the sofa. Good evening, gentlemen. Lads, we're going to kick off. We're going to talk about the last game of the season. It seems like I say this every week that we're going to go back over a game and dissect it and maybe feel a bit upset about it, but it's got to be done, unfortunately. It was a bit of a strange one, as is often the case when we get to this stage of the season. There's a lot riding on every game, there's a lot riding on all sorts of results, so I'm sure, like me, you guys were kind of keeping an eye on what was going on around Derby and Bristol and West Brom and all those things. We did the job that we had to do. Paul, did you see much of the game?
I saw the goals, watched it on Soccer Saturday as they were going in. We missed some absolute sitters before we scored our first goal. We should have been 3 or 4-0 up in 20 minutes, but Brit couldn't hit a barn door. It was just terrible. It was just the way our season panned out, really, over the course of the last few months. But we did what we had to do, but unfortunately, Derby did what they had to do, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, Marc, we said on the social show on the Monday night that to a certain extent it was out of our hands, and it should have been in our hands well before this point. But were you doing the same as me and constantly checking the score?
Well, look, it caught me out of all the predictions that we did. A couple of weeks ago, we done some predictions, didn't we, about how we would finish, and actually we were all spot on right. We said we would fall just outside the door with 73 points. I think we finished on, which, look, it's not enough. They caught me out, especially because I didn't think we'd go to Rotherham and do anything. Always a bit of a banana skin going to a team what's been relegated. Yep. There's players down there playing for contracts. They're playing to try and get a move to stay in the Championship. So I just didn't think we'd go down there and get anything. And I managed to obviously catch a bit of the game and to be up so early on in the game, really. And Paul's absolutely bang on right. We could have had 2 or 3 before that.
Yeah.
But to be up so early and then obviously to be up 2-0 in the first half was a sort of novelty for us, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
But look, you're bang on right, mate. It was all about what was going to happen at Pride Park. I never even thought about Bristol, really, because I thought to myself, it is an outside chance.
It's a massive long shot
it was
for
an
them,
outside chance for them. But I certainly did think, and obviously we had that little moment, which I'm sure you're going to come on to, where we all were sort of like, singing and chanting and thinking it was going to be. But
that was a terrible 20 minutes in my house.
It was awful. I mean, lads, tell me if you were any different, but for me, I kind of went into the weekend thinking, it's not in our hands. I'm not really bothered what happens. We whatever happens, we build for next season. And then West Brom equalised. And I was at my dad's, actually, and he's upstairs tiling the bathroom with BBC Tees on full volume. And everyone in the house heard that West Brom had equalised. So there was a kind of a wave of euphoria passed through Teesside for a couple of minutes. But, I mean, as I said, it's that end of season, things happen, things fall into place. Yeah. And it's that sort of magical sort of culmination of the entire season. It didn't go for us. Paul, we've probably talked about this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times through the season. Looking back, what made the difference between us just falling outside and us just falling inside the playoffs?
I mean, there's certain games you can pick. You can pick the Boxing Day game against Chef Wades. You can pick the game before that against Blackburn. We're just not being consistent over the season. Although I did check, over the last 6 games, we took the most points from the top sides in the top 10.
And Marc, that was something that we hadn't been doing through the season up until that point that you said. Against the top teams, we weren't winning many points.
No, I mean, if you're going to ask me, where I think it's fell foul. Look, we had a 6-game run where we didn't get a point. You can't do it at that latter stage of the season because it's too hard to make up. Yeah. We then did have a bit of an upturn. But I mean, if we were going to, and look, I'm sure on the sort of end of the season show that we always do, I'll bring it out again. It wasn't just Tony Pulis's fault, it was a club matter, recruitment. I think I think Mikel's come out this week and said that maybe that we should have bought more players in. I think Pulis has come out and said about the recruitment at the club. So I think that's where he's sort of leaving his cap and thinking, really, we didn't. And we were all sat here on the transfer deadline show, weren't we? And and it just didn't happen for us.
You were over in Paris, weren't you?
I was over in Paris.
Italy as well.
Never got me money for that. But anyway, but if I was going to put it like that, in a nutshell, it's not just the football on the field, because things happen. Football's it's a funny phrase, but football is a funny old game. And you have ups and downs. But the problem is that the club. I don't think where other clubs stabilised during the transfer window and not necessarily brought big signs in. And I know before people start shouting at me, we brought Mikel in. Yes, we did.
Brought Van La Parra for a lemon top and then sent him back.
I just wonder now how John Obi Mikel's thinking that. Frank Lampard's Derby wanted him to go there.
I mean, you touched on something there that and something earlier on in our conversation tonight that I'm wanting to pick up on. You're talking about Rotherham players may have been playing for contracts for moves to championship teams, all that kind of thing. Equally, you could say the same, Paul, about a lot of the Borough team as well. Mikel for one. If he's not staying, he might have wanted to put himself in the shop window for another move. Hugill, players like this that over the last few weeks.
Downing.
Yeah. So I mean, are there any of those players that you see moving on or staying? Or?
All of them. After that season, why would they stay? They've got no reason to stay with us. We were appalling last season. We were terrible. And for Pulis to come out and say, a 7th place finish was better than where we finished.
That was a strange one.
Last season,
that was a strange one, yeah.
To come out... It's just,
I mean logically, what Paul's saying there, logically what he's saying is he's probably quite correct in saying that he hasn't got the manpower that he had when he got us into the playoffs. Sack Gary Monk.
I totally agree. Yeah. No.
We had the manpower to do that.
I understand Tony Pulis' thought process behind that statement. Finishing 7th this season was a better achievement than finishing 5th last season, because of the recruitment side of things has kind of held him back a little bit, so he's had to maybe work harder to get
the financial fair play things.
Yeah. My counterpoint to that would be, and you made this point last week, would be the Sheffield United squad and the Norwich squad. They've spent £5 million or less, each manager, and they've created a team that's been good enough to go up. On a bigger scale, look what happens this week with Tottenham. Tottenham signed one player in 2 years, and through coaching, hard work, the players play with each other every day in training. They know exactly how it works.
The heart for the football.
They've got to where they've
got, and win.
Not through spending money in recruitment, but through good old-fashioned coaching. And Marc, you know all about that.
Yeah. I mean, Norwich and Sheffield United, and the Borough. There's 3 words for it: style of football.
Yeah.
Style of football. Now, we have people coming on the Monday show and on this show, and they come on and they say about how Tony Pulis is a dinosaur and things like that. Look, we could talk all day long about the formations and how we set up. We are being far more defensive this season than the 2 teams what got automatic promotion. And they both spent far, far less money than us. Didn't recruit as much money because they didn't have nothing to sell.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Norwich sold, was it Madison? They made
I
think
they sold
money on
they sold one player, yeah.
But again, they didn't go out and just blow the lot.
Then they picked up Timu Pukki for free.
Out of nowhere, yeah.
Out of nowhere, who was the championship top scorer? Then we're going and signing
Sheffield United picked up McGoldrick from Ipswich. Yeah. Ipswich, you've just gone down, by the way. A player that, by their standards, wasn't even good enough to stay. Has gone to Sheffield United.
I mean, you do get that, don't you? I mean, that Pukki might never score another 5 goals in the championship, but you do get that. Some may say Sombalonga's never ever scored the same amount of goals he scored at Forest. However, it's Sombalonga for me. It has scored enough goals this year in a team what's been set up defensively most of the year, struggling really. Yeah.
Well, you read my mind a little bit there, Marc, because one of the things I was going to talk about was the fact that obviously Sheffield United have won promotion at the Premier League, but Sombalonga's been linked in the last couple of days with a move to Sheffield United. Now, Paul, we were talking before we came on. It wouldn't surprise me if he went there and he scored 10, 15 goals in the Premier League.
No,
what are your thoughts on that?
That's fine. They will give them a song. They send us Billy Sharp in return, and they could have him. There you go.
Yeah.
So that could be a deal. That could be a deal. We're laughing, joking about it, but that could be a deal.
Exactly.
Straight swap. Are you happy with that?
Straight swap.
The thing is, and just to sort of elaborate on that point a little bit, I can see Sombalonga going to another team and doing well, but it's not because he's not been getting chances and opportunities at Middlesbrough. He's been getting chances, Marc, and not putting them away. What do you think? It's not as if the team haven't created at least one chance for him every game.
Well, one thing, and we've said it 1,000 times, one thing about Sombalonga, he's a confidence player. You could see when his confidence is low, he hits a penalty, it nearly hits a pie seller in row Z.
Yeah.
He scored 2 penalties last 2 games. But for me, Sombalonga, you say about the Premier League, I think the Premier League suits Sombalonga a little bit slower, a bit more technical, and like to play in behind. So it would probably suit Sombalonga the Premier League.
Could well do. We're going to take a quick break now, so we'll join you in probably about 5 minutes' time. Good evening, welcome back to Red Army TV. Again, joined on the sofa, Marc Yafano, Paul Burke. Just before we went to break, we briefly touched on the kind of the squad that we had at the Rotherham game and who would be staying, who would be going. It's a big question mark, and it actually spreads over more than just the playing staff, doesn't it? Because we were touching on whether Tony Pulis is going to be staying or whether he's going to be going. We've had a few names bandied about on the page, on the social media, with potential management appointments, that kind of thing. Paul, what's your thoughts on well, should he stay, should he go? Would you be happy if he stayed and built?
No. I think he's just divided the fans so much this season in the same way that Strachan did, but probably even more. He's instilled no team confidence. He needs to go. We need a fresh change. Get someone unproven, maybe someone like Steven Gerrard in to manage the club if he considers leaving Rangers. Possibly someone like.
Well, Marc, you mentioned Steven Gerrard earlier on tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
this isn't an exclusive, by
the way.
No,
but I read lots of obviously blogs, and lots of blogs. It's just people's opinions, But there's a couple of bloggers that I do read, which they don't over exaggerate things, and it's more football wise. And there's been a couple of names linked to the Borough, and I think it's because the Borough in the past have looked after people like, obviously, for those who remember, right back, Brian Robson was his first management appointment, Steve McLaren first management appointment, Gareth Southgate first management appointment, Aitor Karanka. Yeah. So we're a club that gives people a chance with their first, and obviously we've got a chairman who doesn't.
Gary Monk, there's another one.
Gary Monk, who doesn't sort of swing the axe, at the first sign of trouble. So I've heard a couple of names, and I've read a couple of names. One was Mikel Arteta from Man City, and that was more the fact that Man City are sort of like coaching him and grooming him to come back and sort of take over from Pep.
I think Pep said he wants him to go out and manage and then come
so
back.
He wants him to go out, and obviously what better club would you come to in the Championship than the Borough, where you're going to get time and chance to sort of develop?
It could be a bit of a culture shock for somebody like Arteta, where he's come from a club that's used to just spending money willy-nilly, and then coming to Middlesbrough where he's not going to have it to spend. But, and I don't profess to know an awful lot about Mikel Arteta and his style and all that kind of thing, but from the little that I do know, he is a coach. He's a proper coach, which is what Norwich have, which is what Sheffield United have. Tottenham, as I said, as an example. So it could be beneficial for the club to have somebody like Arteta come in.
Yeah, and Paul mentioned Steven Gerrard there. Another name which is sort of like, obviously that he's doing well, obviously north of the border, but obviously the step up for him, would be to go to the Championship and manage a club in the English Championship.
Yeah.
And again,
I think in terms of a club, it doesn't get much bigger than Rangers.
No.
But in terms of a competition and a league, yeah, the championships.
The championships, I think
much better.
Well, we've mentioned it a few times on this show, and obviously the Monday show. The Championship is the third most watched league in the world, but actually it's joint second because it gets round about the same amount of viewers and figures than La Liga. So when we're talking about La Liga and the Championship in the same breath, who wouldn't want to come and manage in the Championship when you're managing up in Scotland? So yeah, Gerrard was another name I've read about. But look, I just think anyone who comes in, sort of first management approach, has got that new modern style of thinking. And the two guys we've mentioned there, by the way, are winners.
Speaking of coaches, someone I would like to see the back of the club in any capacity is Leo Perkovic. Just with the passion and heart he's been giving out on Facebook and Twitter these last few weeks, get him back to at least get the fans back on side over the course of the summer.
I must agree with that. I would love to see him. I would love to see the club find some sort of role for Leo, whether it'll happen or whether it'll work with the rest of the coaching staff. I don't know. I've had a bit of a brainwave while we've been talking. Do you not think, lads, it feels a little bit disrespectful to be talking about managers coming in when we don't even know if ours is leaving? It the fact that we're having this conversation backs your point up, Paul. It backs up the fact that the vast majority of fans are just kind of sick of him.
Yeah.
Now, I must admit, again, on the back of some of your points earlier on, Mark, I was quite pleased to see Tony Pulis come in, because I was sick of another new manager, first job. I was really, really pleased to see us get a proper, proven, successful manager. And for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. Established. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. But yeah, it's one of those strange ones. I think, Mark, and you'll agree with me on this, we've talked about this before, some sort of word from someone would help.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the press, he's going to sit down and speak with the chairman. I think it's the early part of next week.
Next 2 weeks, isn't it? Yeah.
But there's a number of players who are going to be sitting down, because obviously there's a lot of players out of the contract. There'll be loan signings going back, which we spoke of: Besic, Ugill, John Obi Mikel. Do we look at one of keeping him because the chairman and Neil Bowser will want to speak to him?
I would love it if we kept him.
So there's a lot of people going to be going. Stewie Downing, is he going to walk? Is he going to revise a contract? And how I feel about.
I was going to wind you up and set you off on that.
Yeah, how I feel about Downing. I would love to keep him. In my eyes, he would still get in a Premiership side if for the work rate he gives you. Yes, he's not the out-and-out left winger that popped the balls over against Steaua Bucharest in the original comeback. Forget about them Champions League comebacks we've watched this week.
I was going to mention
original
that.
comebacks.
Somebody's done it twice,
Someone had to go one better.
Yeah, but he's not the same player who pops the ball in from the left like that. However, he is a role for Stewie Downing, certainly in the Championship and certainly in the Premier League. So there's loads of people going to be sat down with the chairman next week. I just think, going back to what you said, you were absolutely spot on, because in my opinion, and probably the most opinions of Borough fans, Tony Pulis has brought this club as a stopgap. That's why he only signed a 1-year contract. He came here because Monk didn't work. He knew the ill feeling of the fans for Monk. He got rid of him. He brought someone who was established, like you said, came in, and by the way, he changed my mind because he galvanised the team, got them all pulling in the right direction, and got us to the playoffs that very first year. The problem is, when you read in the history of Tony Pulis being an older type manager, in the oldest type style of play football, it is always the same end result, because the following year, fans don't like that football.
Yeah.
And you know what? I feel a bit sorry for him because I've been watching the Borough a long, long time, and probably for over 10 years now, we've played negative football. That's under McLaren. It was under Monk when he spent all that money. Obviously under Strachan, you know, and under Southgate when it wasn't free-flowing attacking football. What we all sort of Borough fans now want.
I think the only season I remember seeing that, or the only spell I remember seeing that, was when Robson was in charge. You know, the Janino, the Rav, the Emerson, and then even the season after when we went down with Paul Merson, he just tore the league up.
The problem is mate, we couldn't defend for Toffee.
We just want to see an open game of football, attacking game of football, not take the lead and then backs against the wall for.
It's been like that for quite a while.
80 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah,
remember, right. You know, we see it all the time. It's an entertainment industry. People go there to be entertained. And look, I know at the latter part of the season when people go, it's all about 3 points. I appreciate that when you're trying to get something, but for the majority of the season, you're trying to win football matches, and I don't think since Tony Pulis has been Borough manager we've ever set up to win a football match. We've always set up not to get beat and try and nick them on a break.
The only time I've enjoyed this was the first 20 minutes against Sheffield United at home, where we were 3-0 up and Braithwaite was firing.
There's another name. If he comes back to the club, and we touched on this before. Paul, do you think if he comes back, the fans would accept him if he wanted to play for Middlesbrough?
I think he's burnt too many bridges now.
You think?
With the things he wanted to say. Yeah, maybe the first time he said he wanted to leave, and then he came back, he said he wanted to knuckle down, and now he's left again, and he's having to go at us left, right and centre. So, no.
Well, I think, you know, to be fair to Braithwaite, I think he's having to go at Pulis.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think he's ever settled on Teesside, and that's the drama. No matter what, if a new manager does come in, he'll always have that in his mind. Gary Monk had the same when he came in about Downing. First thing he done is he said there was no place for him. You know, and this was a guy we've just brought him back from West Ham, Premier established. I think he was there player of the year, player of the season, and we brought him back to his hometown club, and he didn't want
even get a game. Yeah.
So
it's a game of opinions, like you said. And obviously he didn't suit his plans or his style. It is,
but what I will say is he will have to come back Braithwaite because he's a registered Middlesbrough player under contract, so he will have to come back before he goes anywhere else.
It'd be interesting to see if Tony Pulis isn't in charge and Braithwaite comes back. What a new manager often does is they'll assess all the playing staff at the club. So he might, you know, if a new gaffer comes in and Braithwaite's still on the books at that time, he might say, right, well, I want to see you and I want to
give him pre-season and then
the crack is. Yeah.
What I will say to you is, if would Braithwaite want to play for an Arteta or a Steven Gerrard?
Yeah,
probably. Sure he would.
I'm sure he would. Just before we go, I'm going to tell everybody all about. We've got a benefits match that I think me and a couple of the guys from Red Army are going to be attending on Sunday, which is the 12th of May. It's a benefits match for Anthony Lee. He's a former Middlesbrough YTS player. Unfortunately suffering with his health at the moment. It's at Billingham Town Football Club, 3 p.m. kick-off, Sunday 12th of May, £5 a ticket, all proceeds go to helping him out, and it's going to be a Northern League 11 against an ex-professional 11 as well. Now some of the names that have been banded about, guys, you'll know some of these names. Woody, Curtis, Maddo, Slaven, Hignett. If you can get yourselves down there.
I think Stampy's down there playing as well.
Stampy as well. I'll get him on the list. Get him on the list. So hopefully we'll see you down there, and thank you very much for joining us tonight.